All right, guys. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for checking to our office hours this evening. My name is Kimberly, and I am the University Recruitment Associate with Uncubed. And today we have two special guests. And without further ado, I'll let them introduce themselves, starting with Ms. Kimberly.
Hi everyone, my name is Kimberly. I am the founder of Fast Susu, previous technical project manager at NBC Universal. I'm super passionate about working with technical teams and product innovation and development, so that's what I'm currently doing in my career. Marcus?
And my name is Marcus. I am currently a software engineer. And I like solving problems and fixing things. And I also am really interested in the fintech space. So that's why I want to company such as Fly. Yeah, it's fun.
Awesome. Have you guys can give us a brief history of your company that you currently work for? Kimberly, I know you used a little interesting because you're the co-founder. That you just give us the understanding, where you guys started off now.
Absolutely. So the history of Fast Susu started at a program called CUNY Codes, led by John and Yame. And what he did was he brought together different students from the various CUNY campuses to work on their own software development projects, just to get a basis and understanding of how development teams work in the workforce. And through that program, I learned a lot that way. But the opportunity allowed us to pretty much present an idea, and the various teams within the group were able to vote on, the top ideas within the group, the cohort. So among the various ideas, they narrowed it down to 6, and one of my ideas was picked alongside those groups that were selected. And from there on out, I worked with different individuals who were assigned to the different groups to kind of build out an app. So that app has kind of been going on for about 2 years now. It's called Fast Susu, and what Susu means is it is the term for an informal means of savings among a group of people. And Susus are not a new concept. Different cultures practice it. You hear about different names and terminologies within Asia, the Middle East, most specifically and commonly Africa and the Caribbean. And what we did was we're attempting to introduce that process to the younger generation, the millennials, and just people overall in general, to kind of realize there is a way that you can save together as a group. Most Americans are living paycheck to paycheck, as we've read on a study from American News. And why not save with friends? Why not save with family? And a lot of people don't know that that's something that they can do. So how a Susu works is that, for example, if I had Marcus and Donna here, we decided we wanted to join and create our own Susu. We would set a goal for the month. Now, the number of months that a Susu goes on for is how many people in a group. So our Susu would go on for about 3 months, and we'll set a goal for $300. For that 1 month, Donna and Marcus would put in $200, and I would contribute my own $100 as something that is that I committed to, and that would be a total sum of $300. I would take that, and then the following month it would be Marcus's turn, and then I would put in 100, and then Donna would put in 100, and Marcus would put in his own $100, and then Marcus would have $300, and it continues until the next month until that completes. So that's how Susu works, and that's the history of Fast Susu.
Okay, I will give a brief speed of life. So the company started in 2013 in a hackathon. The founders of the hackathon, they built the app where you were purchasing this location you were purchasing at. So right now I live in Astoria. There's a map of Astoria. You see like the components, the subway, blah, blah, blah. But people say apps. But hey, we like that you're able to link to bank accounts. So that's one thing. Like we have many apps in the fintech space, like Venmo, for example. When you link your bank account to Venmo, it's us in the middle. So we will offload the pressure for entrepreneurs that just want to focus on their actual product, and we become the partners to link the users to the bank account. We help. Yeah. We basically we basically allow them to build in the simplest terms.
Got it. And correct me if I'm wrong, Plaid was just acquired by Visa, correct?
Who knows?
Okay. So I know that both of you have several years of experience. Now, what does your current day-to-day responsibilities look like, and how is your current team structured?
Deanna, is that a question for me or for?
For both of you. Go first.
Okay, I'll go first. My day-to-day is managing our overall quarter strategies for the business right now, and then managing to working alongside two co-founders who are assigned different responsibilities, whether it be reaching out to publicity, just the research and market data that we need to acquire going forward for pitches and business plans, overall vision and strategy, things of that area. So just delegating tasks, keeping on top of where we're at, making the right decisions, and staying organized is what my day-to-day looks like with Fast Susu. And of course, just keeping up with the development team that we have overseas.
And my day is I'm currently mainly in the backend side of engineering, so I kind of build the APIs that allow people to access their data. So I have to work with that data, transform it, and format it in a good manner, and then create an API for it. And also, we have a lot of Scrum meetings for planned work, so we have to be able to. If we have Q2 coming up, so we have to make goals for Q2. And one of the goals could be like, hey, I would like to create this feature, or I would like to create this tool that will help us become more efficient. Stuff like that. And the work actually changes depending, because we have a lot of new work coming in. So yeah. A lot of meetings sometimes. A lot of meetings.
Got it. Now, did you guys both always know that you wanted to get into the tech industry? Was there something specific that may have happened, or a specific organization that you may have joined that kind of piqued your interest in tech? Marcus, you go first. We're going to spice things up.
Okay, I actually went to a business school called Brewer College, and I studied statistics there. But during my junior year, I kind of realized I was more into building things than actually trading, or like trying to build a trading algorithm, just building something from scratch. And I also attended CUNY Codes, and that's where I met Kimberly. And one of the apps we built was a map-based application to help people when they get affected by natural disasters. For an example, if a hurricane were to hit Puerto Rico again, let's hope not, or something along those lines, and people needed to find out, hey, where's the closest safe space? Where can I get access to food? You could put a pin on a map, and they could find those locations easily. The other idea was to create a mesh network, so even if it's offline, like for example, they have no internet, you could still communicate to each other through phones and towers. It was cool to be able to say like, hey, I would like to create something to help people and make the world better, and then just like go out there and do it. So from there, I would start to get a lot more passionate about it. And I just kept on building things from there. So I went to school for my stats major as just to go to school. But like on the downside, I was going to hackathons, going to CUNY codes, and doing all this other stuff. And after college, I just went fully into. I was like, oh, okay, that's a cool major, but this is what I want to do.
Okay, great. That's awesome, Marcus. Thanks for sharing that. How did I get started in technology, and why did I choose the path that I'm on now? I think it started back in middle school when MySpace was a thing. I don't think I was supposed to be on MySpace at the time, but everyone had one, so I had a page. And what I was like fascinated with was the HTML and CSS code that was used to kind of like customize your site. Everyone had like that really cool background with like celebrity, I don't know, Soldier Boy or something. And like there was certain like pieces of code or JavaScript or whatever you can use to make your page kind of pop or sparkle or something like that. So that's when I first started playing around with code. And then I realized it was something I could do when I got to college. When I got to college, I majored in computer science, bioinformatics. I thought the development process was cool, and I did get an understanding of it, but I was more interested in the creation process, the visual process, and innovating, right? So when I got to CUNY codes, almost at the end of my senior year, it was an opportunity for me to kind of like get into that role and experience it for myself and see where it goes. Following that, I think I did an all right job working as the project manager, technical project manager, and I received an internship at A&E Networks and Media. From there, I learned the basis of the project management book of knowledge, how technical project management departments operate within technology, and how it is efficient and is effective to be organized so that we're on top of our tasks to create this full product as we cross-functionally work with different departments. So I took that experience and I continued to learn in it. I continued to develop my own experience and eventually ended up at NBC Universal, where I had the chance to work as a technical project manager on a 6-month contract. So I've led the path of mostly technical project management, but where my passion aligns with is having the skills to be a project manager so that I can use that towards my own initiatives for product and innovation work.
Got it. That was thank you. And so I kind of touched on it previously, but what made you decide, you know what, there's nothing on the market right now like that to do, so I want to proceed with co-founding. Like, what did that thought process look like, and what kind of inspired you to proceed in that route?
So what inspired me to kind of present the idea of Fast Susu within that opportunity at CUNY Codes was that I am of Caribbean descent, and I know people who participated in Susus, and my mother was telling me about how she's in a Susu. She just collected $5,000 that same day. She kind of notified me about the process of a Susu. And I was like, this is great, like this is cool. And I kind of was like, hey, it's kind of difficult to manage. The woman who's managing the Susu was a woman at her job, and she was the person who kind of rotated the funds. The issue with that was that she became ill of cancer and she could no longer manage the Susu after my mother received her part, the $5,000 she received at her turn, and that was, heartbreaking and difficult. So what I realized is that there wasn't a management system that I knew, that my parents knew about, to kind of manage or join another Susu. So I felt as though Fast Susu was something that would, if introduced correctly to the right people, could be beneficial to them. So the thought process was, I see that issue and I decide to go along and create it. Now we do have many competitors, as this is not a new concept, but I believe it's the execution that really makes the difference with the Fast Susu.
Got it. And now, Marcus, for you, I would when trying to apply and accepting that, what led you specifically to apply? What if anything is being done now? You know, surrounding diversity, inclusion, just like hearing, you know, from the Caribbean, this is something that, you know, kind of well known in her community. So if anything is being done or you're specifically kind of help diversity and inclusion.
Oh, that's actually a good question. So the main reasons I wanted to join Plaid was mainly because it was an easy transition to move into tech because I went to the main business, and I had a lot of the knowledge of I had some knowledge of programming, and I knew a lot about data. And one of the biggest things that Plaid does is they deal with tons of data, so it was very attractive for me. And I also went to an event last year. It was actually a data event it was called Data Driven New York City. It's actually a good event. And I met the CEO there. So when I asked him a ton of questions, so I did my personal investigations. And then I joined the company afterwards later in October. So I met him in May. I joined the company in October. And when I first joined the company, I'm not gonna lie, I honestly, the first thing I did was I went on LinkedIn to see, hey, how many people on LinkedIn look like me from this company? That's straight up, I'm gonna be honest about that. And it was as expected, which is Silicon Valley companies, which there's not too many people of diversity. But the one thing I know about my company is they're actually trying to improve on that, and they actually just published an article about D&I. And one of the other things I did, and I feel like a lot of people should do, is they should have these conversations more. And make sure you have a say in D&I. So I joined the D&I committee like right off the bat, like in my company, because I'm not saying it's at my company, but I don't really like places where it's like, oh, the only people that are leading the D&I committee are the people that all look the same. It's not like actual D&I people, you know, and it's pretty weird. It's like a bunch of men in the room saying like, hey, this is what women should eat and wear, but they don't know anything about it. So I think it's also up to us to not be afraid to like, hey, I want to be a part of this committee, and this is what I think should be done to change, because I want to share my experiences and I want to help the next person that comes along to do better about that. And one of my personal goals is, and one of the things I actually believe in truly helps the whole D&I situation, representation. It's just big. Just me being on here right now saying like, hey, I'm a software engineer at Plaid, and saying like, oh, this person looks like me, sounds like me. I could one day do this too. That's not something far-fetched, which is why I strongly believe in. And the company and myself are definitely doing a lot of things around D&I.
That's awesome. And so when thinking about your story per se, thinking about your entire professional career, have there been specific instances or scenarios shape your opinion of being African American in the workplace? And so I'll share one. And even though I'm not in tech, I am a university recruiter, and I went to school for public relations. And so I was very interested in the entertainment industry at one point. And similar to what you mentioned, Marcus, not seeing a lot of people like me. So the conversations I wanted to have and the things that I wanted to do, there weren't a lot of people who agreed with me. And I interned at a really well-known media company, and they were launching a few really cool shows on their network. And I remember there was a specific show that was pitched that was a direct copy of a current World Star hip hop segment. And I made note of that. And no one listened. And it ended up very ugly. And so, you know, aside from being an intern, I felt like my voice wasn't heard. It was, for me, it was almost this Black girl is trying to tell us how to navigate our, you know, our department. And that wasn't what it was, but that for me shifted my interest a bit, because it led me to know that there aren't a lot of people here because of a few things: candidate experience and the education behind it. So what does that look like for me? So I took some time to educate others and educate middle school and high school students in urban communities in Newark, New Jersey, to kind of help them understand, like, there are people like us. There is a large world outside of this small little community that you're in. Let me expose you to it. So if that meant college tours, webinars, you know, any kind of conversation that would allow them to see, like, I can dream bigger and better, and pointing them into the direction of the better resources. So, you know, we know of like Black Girls Who Code, NSBE, that has several different chapters all over the United States. So all of that long spiel to say that was, you know, that was my scenario that that kind of helped shifted my gaze and helped me understand that this is a bigger issue that no one's talking about. And right now people kind of shape it as a imposter syndrome kind of situation. And so how can we navigate that, and how can we push students and emerging Black professionals to kind of get past that? So I don't know who wants to go first, but
I can go first if you guys want.
Absolutely, go for it.
So when you first joined any company, my company was pretty big and well-known. The first thing you feel, no matter who you are, Black, minority, it doesn't matter. I felt some type of imposter syndrome just because, like, I didn't study computer science. I didn't really go to a tech school. And then it's like, oh, here you go to Silicon Valley, meet all these people that had years and years of experience in studying computer science, blah, blah, blah. So the first thing you think is like, oh, I cannot speak up or ask like dumb questions because you're kind of scared. You're kind of scared, like, oh, there's already way too many things going on and I don't look like these people, so I can't say something that'll make me look dumb or not smart, because that's the perception people will have of you on top of other perceptions they may have. But that's one. But then I changed my mindset recently to be like, hey, if me being Black or me being loud or me being myself, it won't be a problem for me. It'll be a problem for someone else, because that's just the other person not being used to seeing someone like you around. That's all it is. And I actually read that quote from somewhere else. I can't remember where, but I felt like it was an amazing quote, because the reason companies focus on D&I is because they know it makes the company better to have new and fresh ideas. It makes a better picture. So that goes to say they want you yourself as a whole. They don't want you to come in and just like become like everyone else and conform. Because that's what usually happens when people talk about D&I. They talk about the D, but they forget the I. You know, so that people are expected to like start to act like everyone else around them. And then I think I tried to cover for this once when I tried to like fit in with everyone around, and then it did not turn out well, because there's certain interests I just don't have, like that everyone else has around you. But like, for an example, if people like reading manga or comic books, which I love doing, don't get me wrong, but if people love doing that and they're on your team and you don't like doing that, you'll try to like, oh, let me learn and try to do that so I could fit in better. But it would be better for you to come up with something new that you actually enjoy doing, to show them like, hey, this is what I enjoy doing. Do you guys also like doing this? So along those lines will make you feel more empowered to speak your mind and more empowered to just be yourself and not try to fit in and be like everyone else, because that's not the goal of D&I.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that, Marcus. Deanna, I think I can relate definitely to your story, especially being in the entertainment industry. As somebody who's worked in twice in the entertainment industry and media, I've seen that. I've often been the only woman of color, you know, especially someone in my most recent role previously as a technical project manager can be a little bit daunting, especially for a group of people that don't necessarily look like you. In my experience, if anyone works in the media industry, you just know that there's kind of like playing the field, playing the game. There's a lot of politics, but then you kind of have to know yourself and always be true to yourself, one. So that's kind of like advice to any individuals who are persons of color and attempting to navigate any area in the media industry. But there will be times when you do share your thoughts and you do share your suggestions, and it might not be taken as seriously as someone else. And it's in, you know, you see it, you notice it, and oftentimes talking about it isn't received well either. So the real big issue here with diversity and inclusion and working in these spaces is that we're still talking about being diverse and inclusive. It's almost like it's popular to say we are diverse and inclusive without actually being diverse and inclusive, because we're not accepting the fact that diverse groups is something that's normal. Having a team that from different places is okay, and we should really work to hire these people and find these groups. It's not like there is a lack of, you know, people in tech, especially persons of colors, that are willing and available to do the work. It's just that they're looked at almost as if they don't know, maybe, or need a little bit more leverage than other people to make their case in point. So it's a stigma. There are biases there. It's something that various industries really need to overcome. But I think one way to solve that is to really put more people in charge, especially people of color, in places where they can help others see the need for it. Diversity.
That was really good. I appreciate that. And, you know, piggybacking off of that, thinking about ways that we like to give back and help those who are coming into the industry. So this is kind of a two-sided question, but for both of you, I wanted to know what ways you currently do that, and what advice would you have given your younger about what you know now in the industry?
Marcus?
Oh, sure. Actually, again, I live in Florida, which is pretty close to LaGuardia College. And actually, Stuart, our old peer mentor from CUNY Codes, he was hosting CUNY Codes last time at LaGuardia College. So I like went to a couple classes and I helped run sessions, which was pretty amazing. Which is basically me doing something I was in and then coming back and being a mentor to students, which was amazing. And also, I always accept people that hit me up and were like, hey, would you like to chat about some stuff or something along those lines on LinkedIn? Don't spam me all at once, of course, but just because like it's always the small stuff that you're very scared about, like things you have no experience with, like, oh, what's gonna be, how is the coding interview like? What kind of problems do they ask you? Do I need a whiteboard? Yes, you do need a whiteboard. I have one. I have, and the advice to my younger self would be get a whiteboard sooner as well. And my advice to other students would also practice a lot. Like legitimately, do not just go to school. If you are a CS major, don't just go to school and go to your class and then you just go home and chill. You have to try to make yourself look better among like all the pool of applicants, especially if you're from not a big tech school. If you're not from Stanford, Harvard, or one of those schools, and you're from CUNY or along those lines, you have to like find stuff to add to your resume to make it look more appealing. And one of the things that me and Kimberly did was we attended CUNY Codes, which was a cohort. So that looked very appealing to say like, hey, I also went to school, I also did this, and I have a bunch of hackathon projects on my resume. So if you format your resume like that, it'll be better than just the average resume from all the classes you took on data structures and algorithms, and you put that as coursework, and then the projects you built a linked list. Everyone has the same thing on their resume because everyone went to the same school and did the same stuff. So people need to go out and try to create. Don't create stuff that you think like, oh man, this would be super. Create stuff you actually want to create. Create stuff that's fun, that you like to build. Find something that inspires you. Create it, put it on your resume, and keep it moving. Legitimately, that's the only way.
Thank you, Marcus. Thanks for sharing that. Question was, how do I give back? Okay. I think the way I'm giving back right now is by starting something for myself, having the courage to do that. Because in the past, and as we've seen many people do it, especially people of color, those that are empowered to start something, gain traction, and build, have the opportunity to help people alongside of them. And I hope that with what I'm doing right now and today becomes something where I can make the difference with hiring people from all backgrounds, from all ranges. Currently, my team is very diverse. I'm from the Caribbean, another co-founder is from Guinea, Africa, and another from Nepal. We did have other co-founders who were from Russia and various places like that, but the point is, just be open and willing to work with everyone. And I think people kind of have that fear of being introduced to new personalities and new I don't know, just I think be willing and open and work with those people. But my advice, because it really makes a difference and we all have something to contribute. But my advice for people is to kind of people who are not very interested in kind of building something on their own and leveraging things that way, is to, when you get into those spaces, to know yourself and really truly believe in what you've done so far, because there are many people that you might have already done more than, people from all backgrounds, and you have to remember that. And you have to remember that to be in the position to get to where you want to go, you just have to continue to know yourself, because there are many people who are in a position who are in the position because of connections. For example, New York City is a very diverse place, but if you really look at the demographics and housing, it's very segregated. If you think about where people live, they connect in the places where they know people that look like them. They work in the places that they know people look like them. And this is how, maybe there is such a huge gap as well within the workforce. So it's just really connecting, being open, and giving other people around you that chance. Something I tell my younger self is to not to take everything so personally, because I know there are many people who have come before me that have had things much worse than I have today. So to just keep moving forward and believing in my ideas, keep looking at those figures that have made it, and stay passionate, is something that I would tell myself. Yeah.
I have one thing to say to myself, to everyone listening, to my younger self. That's my younger self. Don't necessarily be so anxious about applying to the jobs that you see, and you're just when you look at a job, you see all the qualifications. You're like, oh, I'm not qualified, but it's just like a filter. No one expects you to know all of those things, and it's usually the HR department that makes those like job offerings. And then you would take forever to you're like, oh, I'm gonna apply next week. I'm gonna apply next week. It's better for you to apply instantly, so you could say like, hey, okay, that didn't work. Let me try again. Or what other stuff can I do to make my resume better? Or which coding problems should I solve on Lead Code to help me get better? Because I remember I did like an interview for Amazon. It wasn't successful, but the second time they did get back to me. And that's another thing about companies. They will hit you back up after a certain amount of months. So it's better for you to try now, fail, and then try again later than to never try at all and to say like, oh, I'm never going to be qualified enough for Amazon, which is not true. Because like if you talk to there's so many people in tech that are just scared, saying like everyone thinks the other person is smarter than them, which is kind of funny. Everyone else thinks someone else knows more than them in tech, which is kind of weird because at the end of the day, all you have to do is know how to solve problems. So once you get good at just solving problems, it becomes less about, hey, this person knows more than me, or I don't know enough. Can you solve the problem? That's it.
That was a really good answer. And that actually leads me to my next one, Marcus, and you kind of spoke about it. Something that I've heard a few developers, and I kind of heard your answer as well, is that to further your education, to not just utilize the coursework. So you should have a GitHub. There are other free websites to use to kind of, challenge yourself. Could you kind of talk about those that you've used maybe in the past? I've heard of Leak Code before personally, but if there are any that you guys utilize in your careers or one that you kind of heard of that may be good for students to kind of use as a resource?
Yes. Okay, number one, for problem solving, there's Leak Code, there's HackerRank, there's tons of other mores. I can't remember right now, but I basically use a ton of, there's also a great book called Cracking the Coding Interview, which everyone has, COC. And that's for you to you study those to you see what kind of problems you will be tested on if it's like an online coding challenge or like a whiteboard coding challenge. And also again, get a whiteboard, because you trying to solve a problem on a computer where it's like a full VS Code or like VS Studio or one of those things is different from programming on a whiteboard. Whiteboards are hell. You get super nervous, you just freeze, you forgot, you lose track of what you were thinking. So it's better for you to get that practice at home or somewhere else on the whiteboard. Other resources I use, GitHub has a free student backpack. So if you're a student with an EDU email, you get a bunch of stuff from GitHub for free. One of those things is a free domain name, free credits to Amazon Web Services, free, a ton of stuff. But at the end of the day, it makes developing free, basically. You get free hosting from GitHub, free names. You could put your whole website on GitHub, which I did, marcus-crowder.me. Put the whole static pages for the website on GitHub, and then get a free domain name from GitHub. So you could build your whole resume for free. The other tools I would definitely recommend. Yeah, those are some of the tools. Oh, actually, don't try to gain way too much knowledge, because that's actually like something that will set you back. I think we were talking about this before. Try to focus on one thing at a time. Basically, if you want to be, you need to find out, do you want to be a back-end developer? Do you want to be a front-end developer? And which languages come into learning this stuff? Because a back-end engineer is different from an iOS developer. And it's good that you have all of that stuff on your resume. Like you have React on your resume, you have Node.js on your resume. but no one's gonna take you seriously unless you have experience or like on the job training from those things. So the best thing for you to do now is learn how to solve a ton of problems and build stuff.
Hey, Diana,
Kimberly,
did you mention something?
Kimberly,
sorry, could you repeat that? I think it lagged a bit.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just asking your answer to the question if there are any online resources for you to utilize now.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of my recommendations for students that are currently looking to get into the tech industry now or looking to excel their careers is to go to if you're in university. I think mostly CUNY, from my experience, has been very helpful in helping students kind of get some experience in the tech industry through clubs or through various hackathons, through various places where they can go to learn for free. As Marcus mentioned, having a .edu can really take you places, especially with the backpack that he mentioned, because I also received that through CUNY Codes, and using those resources kind of helped with development. You do get many discounts, but another resource would be to, from my end, especially with all the project management work that I've done in the team organization, is to get on Microsoft Teams. That's also something that's free if you use your edu address. And what that does is allows you to kind of like do web conferences and keep notes organized and kind of keep all your stuff there and collaborate with your students or any professionals that you know. So that's a really good resource to have. But I think the greatest resource is really to get on LinkedIn and get on LinkedIn early, especially as someone who is an up-and-coming professional. Get on LinkedIn, create that profile, really talk about your experience in detail, especially if you don't have much experience as someone leaving college. Talk about your projects, create a resume page like Marcus has done, and really show people what you're made of with your projects and work that you've done.
Awesome. Okay. I wish I had an edu account to navigate this stuff. You know, passionate man. So, final question for you both, and you guys both did very highly CUNY Codes, which is awesome. For those who aren't CUNY, are you guys currently involved in any specific groups for minorities right now? Are there any groups you've heard of for emerging engineers or emerging students in the industry?
Marcus, I'll let you go first.
Are there any other CUNY codes that we are involved with?
Yeah, and it doesn't have to necessarily be CUNY Codes, but for example, there are like Black Girls Who Code is a group that you know young women can join. If there are any that you may suggest or that you're currently a part of, are there any meetup groups that you guys are currently a part of for folks that look like us?
Actually, there's one called the Icon app. I recently joined. It's kind of like a space where you're a young tech person that looks like us and you're able to find mentors on there, or you're just able to chat. But another thing I realize is do not be afraid to sign up for conference stuff, because a lot of times you would be surprised that you could get tickets from it and you're allowed to get travel for free. Like even the thing you talked about, people who sign up for this event will have a chance to win tickets to the MongoDB event. One of the things I did in 2017, it was like right when I was doing CUNY Codes at the time. They used to send out random emails. So one thing you could do is join join a meetup group or some type of group in your college that sends you like job offers or like, hey, this is an event you could go to. So one of the events I went to was OSCON O'Reilly. It was an open source convention in Portland hosted by the book company O'Reilly. And how I got there was a random link that said, hey, people could sign up and have a chance to win some money to go to Portland, attend a free conference, and just chill for a week. And I was like, okay, hey, I'm a super broke college student, but I really love tech. Can I? And that's how I basically formatted the email. And it actually worked. So I was like, so don't be afraid to just like, don't be afraid to shoot your shot in stuff along those lines, because that experience to me was pretty amazing. Like I never feel scared anymore. Like, oh, there's no way stuff is gonna happen. You never know. You never know. So just like along those lines, Icon, and there's several others I can't remember right now, but I will try to get back to you guys with that. So you can send out an email later.
I second that, especially with the conferences. Definitely research those conferences. They're happening every month, and they really are places to go to learn and meet and connect with people. Shout out to NSBE, National Society of Black Engineers. I think, Diana, you mentioned it. This is a really good conference. I mean, they're hiring on spot, especially within the first 2 days of those conferences. I think they're having one in Texas as we speak this month or upcoming. This is a place for engineers, electrical engineers, software engineers. They really want to meet people, all types of people, but specifically geared towards people of color. You really get to get an in-depth view of the various companies, really big companies, General Motors, Boeing, all over the United States. And this is a great opportunity to kind of meet and connect with people. So take advantage of conferences, take advantage of meetups, great places to talk about your experience and meet people who might be able to help you along the way. So NSBE, meetups, Reddit. You can go on Reddit, go on Medium. People will help you if you ask the questions and write about it. So that's my advice there.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys. I think it was definitely a conversation that you have. Especially in this climate, again, we kind of mentioned it before, but not having enough of these conversations and not seeing enough of people who look like us. And so for those who are watching, we definitely appreciate you taking out the time to watch on this Monday evening. As we've mentioned and promoted, we are going to go ahead and raffle off 2 pairs of tickets to the MongoDB conference in New York City in May, which is really awesome. So thank you all who tuned in and RSVP'd. Marcus, you going to say something?
Am I entered in the raffle as well, or?
Not everyone, but and you know, for those of you who don't win the raffle or who do, Uncubed, we also do a weekly newsletter where we also are highlighting interview tips, coding challenges, as well as a new portion dedicated to scholarships and fellowships that are coming out. And so as we're speaking about MongoDB, while they have just closed out their diversity scholarship, they do have a scholarship for women. And all of the details can be found on their website. But we will also drop a link into our next scheduled newsletter for those who have RSVP who are automatically entered, which is pretty awesome. But thank you both so very much for being a part of this. I hope that we can have another conversation in the future. And that's it. Till we see each other again. Everyone have a good evening.
Awesome. Thank you so much, everybody. It was great.
Thanks for having me. I hope I didn't say it's not.
All right, bye guys.